Hello, my dear students. Welcome to my class Physics. Our today's topic is intuitive concept of force, inertia, Newton's laws of motion, and linear momentum. Now let us start. The first topic is what is force? You already know what is force, and in standard lower classes, here we will define what is force from the concept of different effects of force. Force as an external effort in the form of push or pull, which number one produces or try to produce motion in a body at rest. Number two, stops or try to stop a moving body. Or number three, changes or try to change the direction of motion of the body. Or number four, changes or try to change the shape of an object. That means when we want to define the force, then we define the force from the concept of its action, or that is the which can be produced by the force, or what will be the actions, or what are the different actions of the force, what are the different effect when we apply some force. From that concept we can define the force. That means it is such a quantity, external effort in the form of push or pull, which produces these or try to produce. Here another word, very important word, produces or try to produce motion, stop or try to stop. That means if we push any wall but there is no actual motion taken place, at that time we are trying to push the wall, shift the wall from its own position, but we are unable to shift it. Then the applied quantity or applied effort, then also that will be known as the force. It does not indicate when the body will be in actual motion, then the applied effort is the force. It is not so. Dimensional formula of the force AML T minus 2, and SI unit is Newton. Some external agency is always needed to provide the force. When the external agency is in contact with the object on which force is applied, then the force are known as the contact force. But when the external agencies of force, as for example gravitational force, magnetic force, exact forces on a body, even from a distance, are known as distance forces. That means when we think about the force, there must be any external agency which provides the force, and that force may be two types: contact force and distance force. In our daily life, these two types of forces are observed oftenly. When you push any object, pull any object directly with the help of our hand, then this type of force is contact force, and we are the agency, external agency, which provide the force. And similarly, distance force, some forces are distance force, as for example gravitational force, pulling force between the sun and the earth and moon. There is no direct contact between earth and sun and earth and moon, but a gravitational force is acting between these two. This type of force is distance force. Another distance force is electrostatic force, force between two electric charges, even though they will be are not in contact. Now, initially, there is a fallacy known as the Aristotle fallacy. Fallacy, the word meaning of the fallacy is the false belief or a wrong idea. The Greek philosopher or Greek thinker, maybe Aristotle, and that is about 384 BC to 322 BC, his lifespan, held the view that if a body is moving, some external force is required to keep it moving. Thus, the Aristotelian law of motion is an external force is required to keep a body in uniform motion. It is a natural view, as external force seems to be needed to keep bodies in motion. Left to themselves, all bodies eventually come to rest. It is our daily experience. If you roll any ball on the surface and you will observe after sometimes it will comes at rest, then we think if we continue applying force then it will move, or any vehicles or any cycle bicycling, when you cycling and then if you stop to pedal then it will come to rest. That means there is a concept, and when we continuously apply the force the object will be in continuous motion. And this concept was initially stated by the Aristotle, and practically it is a misconcept now we know, or a false belief. And later on Galileo point out this. Galileo, and he give one idea that is known as the Galileo law of inertia. Aristotle's concept regarding the motion of a body was totally rejected by Galileo in 17th century. Far time better, later about 2000 years in the 17th century, Galileo concluded that if net external force is zero, a body at rest continues to be at rest, and a body in uniform motion continues to move uniformly along the same straight line. This is called Galileo law of inertia. That means, according to Galileo, if there is no forces at all, one moving object that will move with constant velocity, that means without any change in its direction and also without change its magnitude. But in our daily life, we are observing one moving object. If the force is not applied on the moving object, it will come to rest. And according then how it is true? In this case, some other forces like frictional force opposes the motion, and due to the presence of that frictional force, the object will come at rest. Otherwise, if there is no such forces at all, no frictional force, no air resistance, no other forces, then a body in motion that will be in motion continuously if there is no force at all. And this statement is known as the Galileo law of inertia. And he introduced one term, inertia. Inertia, the term initially it was introduced by the Galileo. The term inertia means resistance of any physical object. This term was first used by Galileo. So what is inertia? The inherent property of the body by virtue of which it cannot change its state of rest or uniform motion along a straight line by itself is called inertia. That means any object cannot change its state of rest or state of motion. That means one object is kept, one book is let us suppose kept on table. The book cannot move itself on the table, or if any object it is in motion, it cannot stop itself. And this property, this inability property, it is one inherent property and it possessed by all the objects. This inherent property is known as the inertia property. And officially there is a statement, mass of the body is measured of inertia. So how can we explain the statement, mass of the body is measure of inertia? That means more massive object, we are saying it has more inertia property. If some force is applied on the two objects of different masses, then heavier object does not move through the same distance as a lighter object. So heavier body resists more to change in its state of rest than lighter body. Thus, more is the mass of the body, more will be inertia. Hence, mass of body is measured of inertia, and it is our daily life experience also. If a heavy moving object, if we want to stop it, then we have to apply more amount of force. That means to change the state of motion, even if when it is at rest, if we want to bring it in motion, to bring it in motion, heavy object require more amount of forces. That means it will resist more to state of change of state. Therefore, we can say mass of the body is measure of the inertia. More massive object we possess more inertia property. Now, type of inertia. Inertia of rest. The tendency of a body to remain in its position at rest is called inertia of rest. We can define another way. The inherent property. Inherent property means actual, it owns the property. It is not the imposed property. Inherent property of a body by virtue of which it cannot change its state of rest by itself unless an external force is applied on the body. And this inherent property is known as the inertia property, inertia of rest. That means object which is at rest, that will be at rest if there is no external force applied on the object. This property is known as the inertia of rest. Another, inertia of motion. The tendency of a body to remain in its state of uniform motion along a straight line is called as inertia of motion. That means we can say differently, it is the inherent property of a body. Which type of inherent property? The inability property. Which type of inability? The change its state of uniform motion along a straight line by itself. That is, a body in uniform motion can neither decelerate nor retarded on its accelerate or not retarded on its own and come to rest. Rather, a body in uniform motion opposes the force that try to stop it. That means it is the inertia of motion. That means the object which is at motion, there is a inability property. That object cannot change its state of motion. That means it cannot comes to rest by itself. This inability property, it is known as the inertia of motion. That means when one object is in motion, it always try to keep its motional state or kinetic state. Number three, inertia of directions. The inability of a body to change its direction of motion by itself is called as inertia of directions. That means a body continues to move along same straight line unless compelled by some external force to change its direction. Rather, a body opposes the force that tries to change its direction of motion. That means one object cannot change its direction by itself. For the change of direction, there are also fluid. This property, that means one any moving object, they cannot change its direction by itself without help of any external forces. This property is known as the inertia of direction. Now, one quantity, that is the momentum, linear momentum. It will be widely used in mechanics, and already our headline is the intuitive properties or concept of the force, momentum, inertia. Therefore, we are not going in the details one. And already you know all these things. Practically, we are recapping this, and in your previous classes, in standard 9 or in other classes, you already know all these things. Just in this lecture, we are recapping all this, recapitulating. And now another concept, another term, that is a momentum or linear momentum. It is generally denoted by the P. It is a vector quantity, P vector. Momentum of a body is the quantity of motion possessed by the body. It is another term. That means one moving object, what which amount of motion content in it. If the object is massive, the velocity is more or velocity is less, the lighter object velocity more, velocity less, then in all cases we cannot have to apply the same forces for the same velocity or same forces for the same mass to stop them. Therefore, there should be another quantity, another concept, and which is the measurement of the momentum, motion of the object, that is momentum. The momentum of a body is the quantity of motion possessed by the body. It is equal to the product of mass and velocity of the body. That means momentum is equal to mass into velocity. It is a vector quantity, p vector, that is the m into v vector. Momentum is a vector quantity and its direction is along the direction of velocity. Obviously, the direction, that will be direction of the velocity. P vector is the m into v vectors. Magnitude of the momentum, generally when we write only the value, that will be directly m into v. But when we consider the direction, then you have to write in this vector form, that is p vector equal to m vector into v vector. SI unit of momentum is kg into meter per second. Just it is the product of the unit of mass and the velocity, kg meter per second, and CGS unit of the momentum is the gram centimeter per second, and the dimensional formula, that is m l t minus 1. Now, different cases related to the momentum. Case number 1, when two bodies each having mass m and are moving with velocities v1 and v2, and v1, let us suppose, greater than v2, therefore their momentum will be p1 is equal to m into v1 and p2 is equal to m into v2. Therefore, p1 by p2, if we take the ratio of these two equations, momentum of the two different objects of same mass, but their velocities are different. p1 by p2, that will be v1 by v2, m1 v1 divided by m2 v2, that is v1 by v2. That means for the same mass, if velocity is more, momentum is the more. That means if we plot this graph for mass constant for the two or more objects of the same mass, even if for the same object mass is constant, and if v increases, the p linearly increases, and we get a linear graph. And when v0, momentum also will be 0. We can take this graph for the different object of same mass, or for the same object for the different velocity. If velocity increases, momentum increases. Therefore, linear momentum fast moving body is greater than the linear momentum of slow moving body when masses of both bodies are equal. Next, case number 2. Two bodies having mass m1 and m2. That means two objects have different masses, but they are moving with same velocity. And what will be their momentum? For the first object, momentum is the p1, that is the m1 into v, and for the second object, mass is p2, that is the m2 into v. And the ratio of p1 by p2, that is m1 v divided by m2 v, or p1 by p2, that is the m1 by m2. That means here also, for the more mass, when the velocity is same, more massive object have more momentum. Again, when v constant, and if we plot m versus p, when v is same, if mass is more, momentum of that object is more, and there is a linear equation here also. If m1 greater than m2, then p1 greater than p2. So the linear momentum of heavy body is greater than light body. That is, the linear momenta of bodies having equal velocities are proportional to their masses. Here we are using two terms, momentum and momenta. Momentum, it is a singular term, and plural of the momentum is the momenta. The linear momenta of bodies having equal velocities are proportional to their masses. That means more massive objects have more linear momentum, and if we plot the graph, we will get this type of graph. Now, case number 3. Two bodies have equal momentum, that is p1 is equal to p2. If m1 and m2 be masses of two bodies moving with velocities v1 and v2, then p1 equal to m1 v1 and p2 equal to m2 v2. That means their momentum same, but different objects. Their mass are different, their velocities are different. The momentum of the first object, that is the p1, that is the m1 v1, and momentum of the second object, that is the m2 v2. And here we are considering that p1 equal to p2. Therefore, m1 v1 is equal to m2 v2. And from that we get m1 by m2 equal to v2 by v1. That is inversely proportional. m1 v1 is equal to m2 v2, and from that we can say that v and m for the same momentum, these two are inversely proportional. That means when m1 greater than m2, then v1 less than v2. It indicates this type of relationship is known as the v inversely proportional to the m. That means if we plot the graph for p constant, that means for the same momentum, we are taking different objects of different masses, their momentum same. Then when mass of the object is more, the velocity of that object will be less. Thus, the velocities of two bodies having equal linear momenta are inversely proportional to their masses. So, if two objects have same linear momenta, then lighter object move faster than heavy object. Now we will discuss about the Newton's laws of motion. Sir Isaac Newton's the lifespan is 1642 to 1727. Made systematic study of the motion of objects and presented them in terms of three laws of motion called as Newton's laws of motion. That means after Galileo, the Newton's study on these topics and he studied systematic in systematic way and presented them in three laws of motion. Practically, the first law of motion, that is law of inertia, it was initially given by the Galileo, and the Newton's kept this law of inertia in his first law of motion. Practically, originally the first law of motion, that is law of inertia, that was given by the Galileo. And according to this first law, or law of inertia, both the same, every body continues to remain in its state of rest or of uniform motion in a straight line unless it is compelled by some external force to change that state. That means one object cannot change itself its state of rest or state of motion, or if net external force on a body is zero, then its acceleration will be zero. Acceleration will be non-zero only if there is net external force on the body. It is the first law of motion. That means if there is no external force or net force acting on the object, the acceleration zero. Acceleration zero means the object which is at rest, that will be at rest, and when the object is in motion, that will continue in motion with constant velocity, that is without any change of direction and without any change of magnitudes. Now we get two things from the first law: the definition of the force from Newton's first law of motion. That means we can define what is force from the Newton's first law of motion. According to first law of motion, no body can change by itself its state of rest or of uniform motion in a straight line. The change can be brought about only by the application of some external force. Hence, force is an external effort in the form of push or pull, which either moves or try to move a body at rest, stops or try to stop the body in motion, and changes or try to change the direction of motion of the body. That means from the first law, we can state what is the force. From the first law, we can define what is the force. Similarly, from the first law, we can also define what is inertia. The Newton's first law defines inertia. According to Newton's first law of motion, a body remains in its state of rest or of uniform motion unless an external force acts on it. This shows that a body itself cannot change its state. This inability of body to change its state of rest or of uniform motion in a straight line is called inertia of the body. Thus, Newton's first law of motion defines inertia, and hence it is also called the law of inertia. That means from the first law we can also define the inertia property, and from the first law we can also define the force. And these two are output of the Newton's first law of motion. I am stating again that Newton's first law of motion basically, originally it is Newton's law, Galileo law of inertia, and Newton's added this as a first law in his laws of motion. Newton now second law of motion. According to this law, the rate of change of linear momentum of a body is directly proportional to the external force applied, and the change takes place in the direction of applied force. That means rate of change of linear momentum directly proportional to the applied force, and the change takes place in the direction of applied force. That means what is the change of direction of the momentum, linear momentum, that is along the direction of the applied force. Let us consider a body of mass m moving with velocity v. Then linear momentum of the body p vector is equal to m into v vector at that moment. F be the external force applied on the body in the direction of the motion of the body. Then, according to above statement, this external force, or that is the net force applied on the object, that is directly proportional to the dp dt, or F external is equal to K into dp dt. This external force that is proportional to dp dt. dp dt, it is nothing but the rate of change of linear momentum, and it is the mathematical form of the Newton's second law of motion. I am stating again, F external is directly proportional to the rate of change of linear momentum, that is dp dt at that moment. That is rate of change of momentum is proportional to the F external, and from this relation we get a constant, proportionality constant, and we know the value of P already, that is m into v vector. Therefore F external, that is equal to K into ddt of A into v. Here we are considering the mass of the object remains unchanged, mass is constant, and therefore from this we get K into m dv dt. And again we know dv dt, it is nothing but the instantaneous acceleration or acceleration at that moment. That is the A vector. Ultimately, from the second law, we have F external equal to K into m into A vector. The unit of m, A, and F are so chosen that the value of constant of proportionality, that will be K is equal to 1. The formula that is very popular or well-known formula, F is equal to m into A, but initially there is a K, and we choose the unit of force in such a way that always K is 1. How it is possible? Now, the unit of m, A, and F are chosen that the value of constant of proportionality K will be 1. That means when m is equal to 1, A equal to 1, at that time if you say F is equal to 1, that means the amount of force when applied on a unit mass, it produces an unit acceleration in the same direction as the applied force. Then the force will be taken as one unit force, F is equal to 1. And if we put all the values here, F is equal to 1, M is equal to 1, A is equal to 1, then we get K is equal to 1. That means ultimately, by choosing proper unit of the force, we have the value of K is equal to 1, and the formula now becomes F is equal to M into A, and that is very well known formula. But there is a fact behind it. Initially K is not 1, and we have to make K 1 by taking the proper unit of force. Force, it is a vector quantity. Direction of force will be same as the direction of acceleration. Magnitude of the force, that will be F is equal to m into A, that is simply mass into acceleration. So force F can be calculated by using the equation this. Therefore, from the second law of motion, give the measurement of force or measure of force. That means it is final output of the second law. F is equal to m into A, that is nothing but the output of the second law, and from this law or with the help of this equation, we can measure the force. Therefore, from the second law, we get the measurement of force, and evenly we will get the unit of the force. From the first law, we can define, with the help of first law, we can define what is force, what is inertial property, and now from the second law, we can measure the force. Also, we will get the unit of force. Now, what is the dimensional and unit of force? Dimensional formula, the m into A, that is m L T minus 2, dimensional formula of the force. And there are units. There are two types of units in cases the force. There are two types of units. Number one, absolute unit of force, and number two, gravitational unit of force. Number one, absolute unit of force. Force is said to be absolute unit of force if it produces unit acceleration in a body of unit mass. That means absolute unit we define in this way, that when this amount of force, it is such amount of force when applied on a unit mass, it will produce a unit acceleration, produces unit acceleration in a body of unit mass. In SI system, absolute unit of force is Newton. From this equation, F is equal to m into A, what is the 1 Newton? 1 kg into 1 meter per second square. That is 1 kg meter per second square. And how can you define it? 1 Newton. How can you write in language? The force is said to be 1 Newton if it produces an acceleration of 1 meter per second square in a body of mass 1 kg in the direction of the applied force, obviously. That means it is such amount of force when applied on an body of mass 1 kg, it will produce 1 meter per second square acceleration in the same direction. That means unit mass, unit acceleration. Therefore, it is absolute unit and it is in SI system. 1 kg meter per second square, and shortly it is known as 1 Newton. In CGS system, absolute unit of force we can define in the similar way: unit mass, unit acceleration, and that unit is the 1 dyne, 1 gram into 1 centimeter per second square, that is 1 gram centimeter per second square. Force is said to be of 1 dyne if it produces an acceleration of 1 centimeter per second square in a body of mass 1 gram. That means it is such amount of force when applied on an object of mass 1 gram, it will produce an acceleration 1 centimeter per second square in the same direction of the applied force. Relation between newtons and dyne. 1 Newton, that is the 1 kg meter per second square, and we know 1 kg is the 1000 gram into 100 centimeter per second square, and that is a 10 to the 5 gram centimeter per second square, or that is a 10 to the 5 dyne. That means 1 Newton equal to 10 to the power 5 dyne. Number 2, gravitational unit of force. All these are either dyne or Newton. These are absolute unit of force in SI system and in CGS system. Now another type of unit, gravitational unit of force. Force is said to be the gravitational unit of force if it produces an acceleration equal to acceleration due to gravity g in a body of unit mass. That means it is such amount of force when applied on a unit mass, it will produce acceleration that will be acceleration equal to the acceleration due to gravity at that place. In SI gravitational unit of force, that is the kilogram weight or kilogram force. Shortcut we can write it kg weight or kgf. F is equal to m into a. Then what is the 1 kg weight or 1 kgf? That is 1 kg into g, 9.8 meter per second square. That is 9.8 kg meter per second square. That means it is such amount of force when it is applied on an object of mass 1 kg. It produces an acceleration that is equal to the acceleration due to gravity at that place. On the surface of the earth, the value of the g, the average value of the g, that is 9.8 meter per second square. And from that we can get 1 kg weight or 1 kgf, that is a 9.8 Newton. That means 1 kgf, gravitational unit of force, that is greater than the absolute unit of force in SI system. Both are in SI system, kgf and Newton. But it is the gravitational unit and Newton is the absolute unit. Force is said to be 1 kg weight or 1 kgf. It produces an acceleration of 9.8 meter per second square in a body of mass 1 kg. In CGS, gravitational unit of force is gram weight or gram force. Similarly, 1 gram weight or 1 gram force, that is the 1 gram into g acceleration due to gravity in CGS system, that is 980 centimeter per second square. That means 1 gram F or 1 gram weight, as you like, that is 980 gram centimeter per second square. Therefore, 1 gram weight or 1 gram F is equal to 980 dyne, and it is obviously bigger in CGS system. Difference between the absolute and gravitational unit of force. The absolute unit of force remains same throughout the universe, whereas gravitational unit of force vary from place to place as the value of g vary from place to place. That means gravitational unit g into absolute unit. That means if we go to the moon, on the moon surface, the g will be different. Therefore, when we apply the amount of force on 1 kg of any object on the surface of the moon, their acceleration g will be acceleration due to gravity of the moon, and that will be different from the acceleration due to on the surface of the earth. Therefore, gravitational unit On the surface of the moon, that will be different. On the moon, if you say 1 kg weight, that will be 1.6 Newton approximately. Measurement of force. From Newton's second law, we can measure also the force by measuring the rate of change of velocity with the help of some device. If we can find out the change of velocity, till now it is oftenly measured in the cricket match, the change in the speed, the velocity, and time interval. Then we can find out the rate of change of velocity, that is acceleration, by knowing the mass of the body and measuring the change in the velocity dv in a particular time dt. Force applied on the body can be calculated. That means with the help of this, we can also measure the force. That means all these are outcome of the second law of motion. From the second law of motion, we get measurement of the force, we get different types of unit of the force, and we practically measure the amount of force which is acting, unbalanced force which is acting on any object. Now one term, special term, that is the impulsive force. The force which acts on a body for a very short interval of time is called impulsive force. Example, hitting a ball with bat, driving a nail with hammer, that means hammering and striking of the ball by the bat, or kicking of any football. In such a cases, this force does not remain constant. Firstly, it changes from 0 to maximum and then from maximum to 0. That means here the forces, which type of force? These are very large amount of forces, but they acting on any object for a very small interval of time, and during that time also the force remain not constant initially from 0 to maximum, maximum to 0. These type of forces are known as the impulsive forces. And the effect of the impulsive forces, that is measured by the impulse, it is totally different. That is impulsive force. The unit of impulsive force also Newton. But what is the impulse? Let us know. Impulse, and it is denoted by the capital J or capital I in the different book. Impulse is the total effect of a larger force which acts for a very short interval of time. It is measured as the product of the force and time for which it acts. It is equal to the change in momentum. Obviously, force into time, that is the momentum, or change in the momentum. Because force is the rate of change of momentum, change of momentum by time into time, that is nothing but the change of momentum. That means impulse is different quantity, but it is equal to the change of momentum, not momentum. Change the momentum. Momentum, it is another. Change the momentum, not actual momentum. The impulse, that is a force into time. That means when a very large amount of force acting on any object for small interval of time, at that time, to find out its impact, that force into time, that is the impulse, and that is numerically equal to the change the momentum. Impulse is vector quantity. Its direction is same as that of force or change the momentum. Be careful about it. Impulse or force, direction of force or direction of impulse, not along the direction of the momentum, that is along the change in the momentum. The direction of the impulse, that is not in the direction of the momentum, it is the direction of the change in the momentum. That change may be positive or negative directions of the momentum. If a force, that is impulsive force, acts on a body for a finite time interval of delta t, then impulse, that will be measured as the force average. Practically, we have to take average force because the force not constant throughout the whole time interval. Those time interval very small, but this average force into delta t, that is equal to the product of the average force and the time interval for it acts, and dimensionally it is equal to the am t minus 1, that is obviously equal to the dimensional formula of the momentum. It is change of momentum. Unit Newton into second or kg meter per second, C is in dyne second, or gram centimeter per second. Impulse momentum theorem. Already we know the J, that is J vector, that is impulse, that is a P2 vector, final momentum minus initial momentum, vectors with difference. The impulse of force is equal to the change in the momentum produced by force. Impulse of force is equal to the change in the momentum produced by force. This relation between impulse and momentum is known as impulse momentum theorem, and it is known as the impulse momentum theorem. That means when any impulsive force acting on an object, and what is the change in the momentum, that is equal to the impulse or effect of that impulsive force on that object. And this statement is known as the impulse momentum theorem. Now, Newton's third law of motion. The third law tells about the origin of external force on the body. According to Newton's, force never occurs singly in nature. Force always occurs in pairs as a result of mutual interaction between the bodies. According to Newton's third law of motion, to every action there is always an equal and opposite reaction. That means from the third law, we get the origin of the force. And in natural, all the natural forces, all the real forces, they always occur in pairs. There is no such a single force in the nature. When any force we observe, there is also equal and opposite forces in such a case. Always. That means the reality of the force or real force, about the concept of the real force, we can get from the third law. Force exerted by one body on the other is action, whereas the force exerted by second body on the first is reaction and vice versa. That means here, action reaction, we are using those two terms, action, another is a reaction. And when one object gives some applied some force to other, if you say that is action, then exactly equivalent amount of force that also will be applied by the second object to the first, and that is known as the reaction and vice versa. In this figure diagram A and B, there are two objects and they interact for a small time of interval, let us suppose at any moment, and the force B given to the A, that is FAB, that is force experienced by A given by B, and FBA, there is a force experienced by B given by A. According to Newton's third law, that means what is the mathematical form of the Newton's law? The mathematical form of the Newton's law is FAB equal to minus FBA. That is force on body A by B equal to minus force on body B by A. Force of action and reaction always act on different bodies, so they never cancel out each other. Sometimes there is ambiguity that two forces equal and opposite, therefore they balance each other, but they cannot balance each other because always action and reaction, these two forces are acting on different objects, therefore their resultant will be never will be zero. The two force resultant of the two force will be zero when the two forces are acting on the same object simultaneously. But here always action reaction, they are acting on different objects.